HR tried to get rid of my dad right before he was able to get his pension. My father worked for a Forbes 500 company since the 70s, moved up the ranks as a software engineer and management, has patents for the company that saved it millions of dollars. He's almost a pension age and suddenly HR starts making his life miserable. He noticed this trend was happening to some of his co-workers when they were getting close to age 60 as well. HR lady calls him into the office and says that he was not punching in and out at the correct time. My father, an engineer, is very detail-oriented. He knew that these were false accusations and asked HR to prove it. They came back a week later and couldn't prove it. And he said, "Of course you can't. I have been driving the corporate carpool bus from a major city 40 miles away from the company for the last 15 years. I always have 16 witnesses on my clock in time and I haven't been late in 15 years. HR lady came back a week later and they said that they were going to fire him for letting people into the building without badging. He asked to see when and where he was letting someone into the building without badging. They showed that he held the door for his best friend who had also been working there since the 70s, who had his foot cut off after having type 2 diabetes. He was in a wheelchair. Prior to this, my dad took the chief of security out for lunch and told him about how this company wanted him to leave before he got his pension, so he got some footage of his own. My dad said, "That is very interesting. You are going to fire me for holding the door for my best friend of 35 years after his foot was amputated and he was in a wheelchair. Fine, then I hope you fire the CEO and yourself as well." He then proceeded to show footage of the HR lady holding the door for his friend and the CEO holding the door for his friend. My father ended up staying there until he got his pension. Edit, I don't know his finances and he probably wouldn't have lost the whole pension, but there was a definite financial difference from being fired prior to reaching age 60 and making it to age 6. Edit 2, so this blew up so much that my brother, who didn't know I was on Reddit, texted me and said, "You are Reddit famous." That's a story about Dad. I knew this was you. Also, some of you are wondering why a software engineer would have to clock in and out. Well, he didn't. I meant to use the word badge in and out of the building. They went that far to talk with security to see his badge timestamps. There are more things that led to this getting bad and I didn't want to write pages and pages, but it definitely escalated to this point. Lastly, for those of you that have been saying that my dad must have worked there as a child, this whole thing happened roughly 9 years ago. My father is 68 right now. If you want to know what company it was, this sentence is the most general hint I can give you, but it may drive people from that company to be mad at me. Final update, Dad quit that job a while ago and made his own company in his retirement. He has used his own money to patent a new invention that desalinates seawater and provides clean solar energy. He has patents for this in America, India, and China, and is looking for some capital to provide clean water and power to third world countries. If interested in helping him build his first power plant, please send me a message. Now to the comments. I hope hordes of future employees learned of this, made sure their contracts had incredible immediate returns, and then abandoned the company and explained exactly what. Those who reward loyalty with treachery deserve what they get in return. European-style employment contracts are rare in the US. In most states, employees are employed at the will of the employer, and in others there are only minimal protections. Even giving 2 weeks' notice is usually only a customary courtesy. That notice is only one way though. If they are going to terminate your employment, they will drop you on your head, no problem. Not a surprise. My company had done similar things for years. They finally got caught and someone ended up suing for ageism. My company ended up settling, but part of the settlement was the entirety of the upper management of HR all had to be fired because they were the one who instituted that policy. 6 people let go, one of which was less than a year from their retirement and full benefits. The past 15+ years have been a bit better. OP replied. A lot of people were being fired at 59.5 years of age. Still are. It's starting to be a common tactic. I had an opportunity to work for a Fortune 500 company. They offered lower pay, but they claimed you could get a pension, except they have a reputation for letting people go before they are fully vested. Noped right out of that offer. I work at a Fortune 500 and the pension vests a constant percentage each year, no magical age milestone. This is the way. Am I the only one who just assumes this is IBM? They seem like a really messed up company to work for. I just learned that back in the 50s they made their employees sing hymns about the company. Let's be fair, everything was weird as duck back then. This is why I'll never turn down more money from another company based on loyalty to my current. You are your own pension. Save your money on your own. Duck these corporations. I'm all about loyalty. In fact, I feel like part of what I'm being paid for here is my loyalty. But if there were somewhere else that valued loyalty more highly, I'm going wherever they value loyalty the most. Many companies value loyalty but only expect it and don't reciprocate. Milton Wadhams, talking on the phone, and I said, I don't care if they lay me off either, because I told Bill that if they move my desk one more time, then I'm quitting, I'm going to, and I told Don too, because they've moved my desk 4 times already this year, and I used to be over by the window, and I could see the squirrels, and they were merry. But then, they switched from the swing line to the Boston stapler, but I kept my swing line stapler because it didn't bind up as much. And I kept the staples for the swing line stapler, and it's not okay because if they take my stapler then I'll set the building on fire. OP replied, I always thought he said that the squirrels were married. That's what he says. I've seen this movie 1,000 times and I watch everything with subtitles on. You need unions to protect you against this shit. Then and now. Lol yeah. Seeing this thread with the eyes of Scandinavia. I'm flabbergasted. Most companies in the US don't offer a pension anyway. You have your retirement fund and you have Social Security, basically a government pension. Jesus, what a bunch of dickheads. Well done your dad, heart. Remember, HR is working for the company, not for employees. That's why they refer to humans as mere resources. If he didn't show his hand, he could have let them fire him and then sued the crap out of them for wrongful termination. More hassle but also more money. That said, what kind of engineer and manager is driving a bus and clocking in/out? This story doesn't make sense to me. My dad was with a tech company that back in the 90s, or early 2000s, went through a phase of everyone has to be here at 9, at the latest, and logged the time you swiped your security badge to get in. Late swipes got you a talking to. But then they learned that if you clock in after 10, it wasn't reported, because it was assumed you were at an external meeting. So, if you were late, you just left for breakfast because it wasn't worth it, and your manager is not going to check up on you. The policy didn't last long. They did the same to my dad where he worked, had been working there since he was 18, right out of his trade program. That's weird. Normally, the way pensions work is that you vest after a certain number of years. You can only lose the pension, for really egregious acts, like embezzlement and such. But this is yet another example as to why working class people need unions. Yeah, my company has a pension and I'm already vested in it. The percentages go up every year and there's a penalty if I voluntarily leave early, but I'm always entitled to my core pension. And there's no penalty if I'm let go and it's waived if I leave during a voluntarily early retirement period. They do every few years. The amount I get goes up over time as I stay there up to a cap, but there's no key difference in leaving at 59.5 and 6. It's not an all or nothing. This reeks of a certain multinational conglomerate with a terribly shitty HR department. Looking at you, General Electric. Are they known for this sort of thing? CEO of a small company I used to work for told us about working for GE early in his career. He was in sales and ended up selling so much one year that they fired him because they didn't want to pay his bonus. He ended up having to sue them and settled out of court, which he then used to start the company I was working at. This is part of why they are nicknamed Generous Electric. The other part is their pricing for utilities companies, etc.